1186, 1187, 1188, 1189, 1190, 1191, 1192, 1193, 1194, 1195, 1196, 1197, 1198, 1199, 1200. Page 1201. Distinguished Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja, representing Jigawa Northeast. I rise to move that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 28 September 2021 be approved. I so move.
Distinguished Senator Jaribe, Cross River North.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I am Jarek Bagom Jaribe. I represent the good people of Cross River North. I rise to move to second that the votes and proceedings be approved. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 28 September 2021 be approved, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 28 September 2021 is hereby approved. Letter from Mr. President. Dear distinguished Senate President, appointment of the Chief Executive Officer for the Board of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority in accordance with the provision of Section 34, Subsection 3 of the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, I hereby forward for confirmation by the Senate the nomination of Engineer Farouk A. Ahmed as Chief Executive Officer of the Board of the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority as a replacement of Engineer Sarki Awalu earlier forwarded. The curricula vitae of the nominee is attached herewith. While I trust that the distinguished Senate will consider and confirm the nominee in the usual expeditious manner, please accept the distinguished Senate President the assurances of my highest consideration. Yours sincerely, Muhammadu Buhari. Birthday announcement. Today, the 29th day of September, is the birthday of our distinguished colleague, distinguished Senator Christopher Ekpeyon. On behalf of all of us, I wish our distinguished colleague, Excellency, a happy birthday, long life, prosperity, and many more years of service to our fatherland. Congratulations. Petitions. Leader of the Senate. Point of order, Senator Uche Lilian Ekunife Iyom.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Uche Lilian Ekunife Iyom. I represent Anambra Central and from Anambra State. Mr. President, my point of order is on a personal explanation. Mr. President, I drew your attention this morning to the gruesome murder of late Dr. Chike Akunyili, the husband of Professor Dora Akunyili, and you gave me the permission to bring it up under Section 43 of the Senate Standing Orders. With your kind permission, Mr. President, can I quickly go through the...
You may proceed.
Mr. President, The Senate notes with utmost concern that on Tuesday, 28 September 2021, at Afompo in Anambra State, that the husband of the former DG of NAFDAC and former Minister of Information, late Professor Dora Akunyili, was gunned down in a most gruesome and very horrifying manner in Anambra State. The Senate notes too that the late Dr. Chike Akunyili is the medical director of St. Leo Hospital, Enugu, an established academician, a medical director, a medical doctor of repute, and one who had contributed immensely to the development of healthcare in Nigeria. The Senate notes further that Dr. Chike Akunyili went to Onitsha to present a paper and receive an award at memorial lecture put together by civil society organization in honor of his late wife, Professor Dora Akunyili, and was gruesomely attacked and murdered at Mpo on his way back to Enugu. The Senate is aware that lots of gruesome attacks and killings have been going on around in the entire Southeast, especially in Anambra State, Enugu State, and Imo State. Mr. President, the Senate therefore urges the Inspector General of Police and other law enforcement agencies to step up action towards unraveling perpetrators of this gruesome murder, gruesome killings of our innocent people in the name of unknown gunmen in the Southeast. The Senate also urges the state governors of the Southeast to step up and ensure the security and ensure security of lives and properties of citizens of the Southeast, because security of lives and property of innocent citizens are the immediate responsibility of the state governors as enshrined in our Constitution. I also urge the Senate to observe a 1-minute silence on behalf of Dr. Akunyili and other innocent citizens that have also lost their lives by these unknown gunmen. May I also use this opportunity, Mr. President, to call the attention of the Inspector General of Police and other security heads in Nigeria to look into the Southeast and know exactly what is going on. On daily basis, people lose their lives through these unknown gunmen. Mr. President, Southeast is bleeding. We want you, as the head of these chambers, to also assist us to ensure that security agencies in Nigeria do the needful by securing the lives and properties of our people. Thank you.
Because you have come under Order 43, there is no debate on this. We do the 1-minute silence. Thank you. May the soul of the deceased rest in perfect peace. Amen. Leader of the Senate. Senator Bola Ibn Allah.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues. I would like to come under Order 42 and 52 of our rules book, Mr. President, and with your permission, I would like to read what 42 says. 42 is a matter of urgent public importance, and the order says the matter for discussion shall, if possible, be referred to the President of the Senate before commencement of the day's sitting, and the President of the Senate shall refuse to allow the claim unless he is satisfied that the matter is definite and urgent. And then 52 says, Mr. President, that notice shall not be dispensed with in the case of a motion or in respect of any other proceeding for which notice is required, except with the consent of the President of the Senate and the general assent of the senators put together. Mr. President, you remember yesterday I approached you about a matter of urgent public importance, and that is the one I intend to raise on the issue of streamlining the export and import of goods through our airports, which is urgent and compelling, Mr. President. With your permission, I'd like to move.
Yeah, not only my permission, but the permission of the at least 1/5 of senators here. Distinguished colleagues, Senator Bala Nala, I would suggest that you go a little bit further to give a little bit more synopsis so that everybody here understands what your request is.
Thank you very much for that indulgence, Mr. President. My colleagues, I'm sure throughout the weekend and early this week, you will have been availed of the situation that we are in this country regarding the exports of our goods, more especially agricultural and other finished goods outside this country through our airports. Now, because of the multiple charges that we have, the situation has become so bad that aircrafts now no more take any cargo from this country. And I think that is very, very important that we address it as quickly as possible, more so now that the need for this country to have inflow of foreign currency is very, very important. And that is the reason why I felt that the Senate has to intervene as quickly as possible. Thank you, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, having listened to the summary of what the issue our colleague wants us to allow him present before the Senate, having come under our standing orders 42 and 52, which requires that he gets the endorsement of at least 1/5. Those in favor of his request that he presents his motion now, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Bala Ibn Allah.
Thank you very much, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues. The motion is on the need to streamline import and export of cargo processing in the aviation sector. Mr. President, the Senate notes.
Senator Bala Ibn Allah, do you have a hard copy of this, your thing? Where is it? Because you are the only one now. Even me, I cannot put the press, put questions on the press because you are the only one having. Then will be when I will put the press, when I put questions on the press. Please, can you write it for me? Or somebody should submit it to me. Yeah, you can move the motion, but I need the press.
Thank you, sir. Okay, the Senate notes the disturbing trend of multiple charges and delay in processing of cargo, both import and export in Nigeria. Aware of the negative effect it has so far inflicted on our economy and the country at large, not with dismay, the loss of about 250 billion as an estimate on agro export of produce in the country, which stand as at today in the ratio of 87.13% by way of imbalance. Aware that there are about 16 sundry charges for goods coming in or out of the country, with 16 charges in Lagos and 15 in Abuja, which many of them are unofficial and illegal. Further notes that the loading of 100 tons of cargo on aircraft in Nigeria costs about $35,000, while in Ghana it's just about $4,000. Aware that this has caused substantial damage to the federal government efforts of stimulating capital inflow in the country, and aware that airlines involved in cargo transport have started avoiding Nigeria in view of the prohibitive charges. the Senate will resolve to mandate the Joint Committee on Trade and Investment and Aviation and Custom to invite stakeholders and freight agents to come with acceptable template for import and export of goods through our airport. This is the motion, Mr. President.
So, what is the prayer?
The prayer is to mandate the Joint Committee on Trade and Investment and Aviation and Custom to invite stakeholders and freight agents to come with acceptable template of processing of our import and export through our airport, sir. I will write the prayer immediately, sir, and send it to you, sir. But I think the prayer is clear enough. Oh, and agriculture, sir.
Senator Balanala, please let me have the prayer so that it can be amended or whatever it is. But not your phone. No. Distinguished colleagues, before the prayer, we have listened to the submission. Is there anybody who wants to contribute to this? Yes, Senator Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi, Deputy Chief.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I'm Aliyu Sabi Abdullahi. I represent Niger North. Mr. President, permit me to thank our distinguished brother for bringing this very important issue that I would say has remained evasive. Evasive in the sense that over the past years, the trend has been growing. Almost every agency that has one role or the other wanting to be prominently put on the value chain of our export business. And I think that is why we are having this multitude and duplication of taxations and charges that exporters have to go through. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, there is a global standard. And I think until we go back to what other countries are doing to be competitive, we cannot get our producers who are ready to export to be competitive. For example, he is making reference to agricultural produce. Many of these agricultural produce, all you need is to have a central clearing process, where if it is in terms of the standard specification, if it's in terms of residue allowance or other things, somebody just gets a one-stop shop for all of this. But today, everybody is tearing his own component and creating his own silo of authority, requiring that an exporter has to go through all these pockets of areas he has mentioned. That is not good for ease of doing business. And of course, it means Nigerian exporters are not competitive in comparison with other countries. And of course, you are dealing with a global economy. That is one. Two, most of the times when they export, they end up getting discounted price because it's not competitive. And in many instances, there are sharp practices where even the allowable residues are not even followed. And I give a classical example, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The issue of mycotoxins, for example, the European Union over time has said the allowable unit of mycotoxins in our products is way above their own standards. So these are examples of issues that has led to these problems. And I think it is good. We are looking at this and we should take it very serious if we want to put Nigeria's diversification effort on a very solid platform. I so submit.
Senator Ibrahim Abdullahi Gobir.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, distinguished colleagues. I rise to support my good friend on the motion he brought to the chamber. This is very fundamental because if you look at the situation now, our economic team, to be candid, is not doing well. They are failing in all respects. Because if you look at the situation, the stakeholders are supposed to meet with the economic team and then decide on what to do. Because this is actually affecting even the free fall of the Naira now. The situation is going to be so bad in future that we are going to have 1,000 Naira to a dollar if we don't be careful, because the way the situation is going on. The whole issue should be boiled on services, that is protection and services. And if we are not producing anything, then we are going to be in trouble. What is happening now is that it's going to be very difficult to import and also very difficult to produce locally because of the inflationary nature of the whole situation in this country. So I think that is need we look at this, and I therefore support this motion. Thank you very much.
Distinguished colleague, there is only one prayer. Mandate the joint committees on trade and investment, aviation and customs to invite stakeholders and flight agents to come with an acceptable template of processing our imports and exports of goods through the airports. Senator Abladam.
Yes, I amend that motion.
No. Senator Abladam.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, in supporting the motion, I want to add in the prayers that the Committee on Agriculture should be included, because agriculture does form one of the major areas, that the motion is trying to take care of.
That is amending the prayer, that we add the joint committees on trade and investment, aviation, customs, and agriculture, rural development. Seconder, Senator Ahmed Baba Keita.
Thank you, Mr. President. I remain Ahmed Baba Keita, Katsina North. I rise to second the amendment ably moved by distinguished Senator Abdullahi Adamu. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the only prayer as amended, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional prayer? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first business of the day is the presentation of an executive bill standing in my name on the Petroleum Industry Act 2021, Amendment Bill 2021. I wish to invoke Order 1B to introduce this bill on the order paper. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Petroleum Industry Act 2021, Amendment Bill 2021, SB 817, first reading.
Petroleum Industry Act 2021, Amendment Bill SB 817, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second business of the day is the presentation of a House bill standing in the name standing in my name on the Federal University of Education, Aguleri, Anambra State Establishment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal University of Education, Aguleri, Anambra State Establishment Bill 2021, HB.
Federal University of Education, Aguleri, Anambra State Establishment Bill 2021, HB 1138, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Obasani on the Act Authentication Act, Cap A2, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria 2004, Amendment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill.
Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Act Authentication Act, Cap A2, LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2021, SB 806, first reading.
Act Authentication Act, Cap A2, LFN 2004 Amendment Bill 2021, SB 806, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fourth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Stella Odwa on the Federal Medical Center on the Shah Establishment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Federal Medical Center Onisha Establishment Bill 2021, SB 814, first reading.
Federal Medical Center Onisha Establishment Bill 2021, SB 814, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Michael Opeyemi Bamidele on the Legal Practitioners Act, Cap L11, Laws of the Federation of Nigeria, Repeal and Re-enactment Bill 2021. Mr. President, may we invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Legal Practitioners Act, Cap L11, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2021, SB 815, first reading.
Legal Practitioners Act, Cap L11, LFN 2004, Repeal and Reenactment Bill 2021, SB 815, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth business of the day is the presentation of a bill standing in the name of distinguished Senator Jibrin Issa on the Nigerian Capital Development Fund Establishment Bill 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the Clerk of the Senate to read the short title of the bill. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, Nigerian Capital Development Fund Establishment Bill 2021, SB 816, first reading.
Nigerian Capital Development Fund Establishment Bill 2021, SB 816, first reading taken. Leader of the Senate. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the first order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief for the confirmation of the nomination of the following persons for appointment as commissioners of the defunct of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, in accordance with the provision of Section 3, Subsection 6 of the Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Act 2000. They are as follows. Number one, Dr. Mrs. Modishola Yaya Kolade, Southwest. 2, Anne Otelafu Ode, Mrs. South. Number 3, Alhaji Goni Ali Gujuba, Northeast. Number 4, Dr. Louis Solomon Mandama, Northeast. Number 5, Senator Anthony O. Agbo. Mr. President, distinguished senators, the purpose of this motion is for the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief to be referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I therefore move that the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief be referred to the appropriate committee for further legislative action. I so move. Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that as moved at by the Senate Leader that these nominations be referred to the appropriate committees for legislative action. I so second.
Thank you very much. Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do consider the request of Mr. President CNC on the confirmation of the nomination of persons mentioned above by the leader, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The nomination, the request of Mr. President CNC is referred to the Committee on Anti-Corruption and Financial Crimes for further legislative processing to report back within 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate. Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the second order of the day is a motion requesting the Senate to consider the request of Mr. President Commander-in-Chief for the confirmation of the nomination of Engineer Mohammed Sani Baba, representing Bauchi State, for appointment as Federal Commissioner in the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, in accordance with Section 154,
subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is amended. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the purpose of this motion on the order paper is for the request of the Mr. President and referred to the relevant committee for further legislative action. I so.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the nominations of Mr. President be referred to appropriate committees. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do consider the request of Mr. President CNC on the confirmation of the nomination of Engineer Mohammed Sani Baba, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The request of Mr. President CNC is referred to the Committee on National Planning and Economic Affairs for further legislative action to report back within 2 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the third order of the day is a motion standing in my name on the recommittal of some clauses of the Federal University of Technology, Federal University of Education, Kontagora Establishment Bill 2021. Mr. President, with your permission, I would like to have your permission to move this motion.
You may proceed.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, this motion has become necessary as a result of observations that have been made by our legal office of some defects that were observed in the motion that we had passed, in the bill that we had passed on the establishment of this federal university. I will therefore move again, Mr. President, for the Senate to resolve into the Committee of the Whole to consider the amendments that have been suggested to cure the mistakes that have been made in the earlier bill. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do now go into Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, there are 4 clauses to be considered. Clause 10, General Fund of the University. Those in favor that this clause stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 27 on page 2, Savings and Transitional Provisions. Those in favor that this clause stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 28 is repealed. Those in favor that clause 28 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And clause 29, proposal and recommendation. Those in favor that this clause, clause 29, stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I move that this Senate resumes plenary for the chair to report progress. I so move.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do now move to plenary to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Yes, Senator Sabi.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My attention was just being drawn with respect to clause 10, the fund of the university. I think they omitted the annual appropriation. So we want to make an amendment to. I want to make an amendment to that clause with due respect, sir. Correction, ring. Hi.
At this stage, we can amend it through recession. You can amend it by substantive motion. So you can bring a substantive motion for rescission. For rescission of our earlier endorsement of this, so that we can take the amendment and then put the question again.
Yes. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, sitting as chair, Mr. President sitting as chair, I'm Maliu Sabi Abdullahi. Section 15. Section 50?
The original one, not the
Clerk, you are supposed to help now. Because there should be rescission of our earlier vote. So help. No, we are not going to do third reading. We can just undo the vote that we took at this point. Aha, 53-6. Yes.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues, I want to move a motion as a substantive motion consequent upon our order 53-6 that clause 10 be amended, the earlier approval be rescinded, and another item introduced to make a new clause 10 as follows.
You should mention what you want to introduce, because this is something fundamental. So we want the Senate to rescind first, and then you can come up with amendment.
I want the Senate to rescind the approval given to clause 10 of this particular bill. I so move.
Senator Barrow Jibrin.
Mr. Chairman, my name is Senator Barrow Jibrin. I stand to second the motion ably moved by the Deputy Chief Whip. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, the point of order 53.6 that allows for rescission of an earlier decision of the Senate is cited by our colleague here because the funding of the university that we passed omitted or did not include annual appropriation. And this is a fundamental flaw. So we will rescind this, and those in favor of the motion that has been put forward and seconded that we take a rescission of the earlier decision without the annual appropriation, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Now you can come with the amendment you want.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. I want to amend clause 10 to introduce as clause 10(1)(a) annual appropriation. That is, there shall be a general fund of the university which shall consist of the following. A new A to read annual federal government allocation appropriation. And then the subsequent numbering will be renumbered accordingly.
Yes. I need a seconder. Senator Abdullahi Adamu.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, distinguished colleagues. I rise to second the motion that seeks to introduce section 1A to be there shall be a general fund of the university which shall consist of the following.
Subsequent numbering grants in aid will be B, and so on and so forth. So, Secretariat, take note. Those in favor that clause 10 as amended stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, I rise to move a motion for the chair to report progress. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that the chair do now report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the Federal University of Education, Kwantagora Establishment Bill 2021 and approved as follows. Clause 10 as amended, Clause 27 as recommended, Clause 28 as recommended, Clause 29 as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you very much. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I move that this bill be read the third time.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this bill be now read a third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Petroleum Industry of Education, Kontagora, Niger State, and for other matters connected there with 2021, third reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Education, Kontagora, Niger State, and for other matters connected therewith, 2021 third reading taken, and the bill is passed. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, the fourth order of the day is the presentation and consideration of the report of the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary on the Federal College of Complementary and Alternative Medicine of Nigeria, Establishment Etc. Bill 2021. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was referred to the committee on Wednesday, 31st April 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ibrahim Yahya Oloriegbe, Chairman of the committee, to move the motion for the presentation and consideration of the report.
Distinguished Senator Ibrahim Yahya Oloriegbe.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Ibrahim Yahya Oloriegbe. I represent Kwara Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I move that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary on the Federal College of Complementary and Alternative Medicine of Nigeria Establishment Bill 2021. I so move, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar. I represent Kwara North. Mr. President, I rise to second the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Health, Secondary and Tertiary on the Federal College of Complementary and Alternative Medicine of Nigeria, Establishment Bill 2021 SB 394. I so second, Mr. President.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate do receive and consider the report of the Committee on Health on the Federal College of Complementary and Alternative Medicine of Nigeria, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Chairman, please lay the report. Please, you may present the report.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. The Senate, as is sitting on Wednesday, 10 June 2020, read for the second time the bill for an act to provide for the establishment and incorporation of Federal College of Complementary and Alternative Medicine of Nigeria, FEDCAM, and to make comprehensive provision for its due administration and for other related matters, and refer same to the Committee on Health for further legislative action. The bill that was sponsored by my humble self seeks to, among others, provide legislative backing for the Federal College of Complementary and Alternative Medicine, created as an agency under the Federal Ministry of Health. I go to observation, Mr. President. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the domestication and training of complementary healthcare providers, rather than they are being trained abroad, will prevent unnecessary wastage of our hard-earned foreign currency, which could be put to other use in the country, especially on our medical infrastructures and personnel. The college, when established, will improve the coordination of evidence-based indigenous medicine, as well as maintain standards and regulation of practice to eliminate quacks in that sector. The objective of the bill, Mr. President, is to, among others, provide legal backing for the previously existing college for the training and retraining of complementary and alternative medicine professionals in Nigeria, in compliance with the World Health Organization's Traditional Medicine Strategy Plan 2014 to 2023. The college will improve the standard of practice of complementary and alternative medicine in Nigeria with the added advantage of increasing citizens' access and choice to healthcare. Our recommendation, Mr. President, after a clause-by-clause consideration of the bill, which is made up of 31 clauses, 3 schedules, a short title, and explanatory memorandum, the committee recommended as follows: to amend the clauses that are listed in the report, insertion of new clauses 5, 6, 7, 10, 13, 14, 15, 16, 24, 26, and 27, and a deletion of Schedule 3 that was in the previous submitted bill. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, I urge you all to support this bill for its accelerated passage into law. In conclusion, Mr. President, the committee would like to thank the Senate President, the Deputy Senate President, the entire Senate leadership, and all distinguished colleagues for the opportunity given to us to serve in this capacity. I so submit, Mr. President.
Any comments? Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise for a motion that this distinguished Senate do resolve in the Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do now resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider this report. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the report clause by clause, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, this bill has 36 clauses and it's a straightforward bill. We start. Those in favor that clauses 1, 2, objects of the college, 3 principal officers of the college, and 4 powers and functions of the college stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 5, composition of the council, is on page 7. Clause 6, functions of the chairman of governing council. Clause 7, functions of the council. And clause 8, functions of the council and its finance and general purposes. Those in favor that those clauses stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 9 is on page 12, the academic board and its functions. Clause 10, the requirements for the post of provost. Clause 11, the provost, the functions of the provost. Clause 12, the functions of the registrar. Those in favor that clauses 9, 10, 11, and 12 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 13 on page 17, other employees of the college. Clause 14, salaries and pensions. Clause 15, pension. And clause 16, funding of the college. Those in favor that clauses 13, 14, 15, and 16 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 17, transfer of property, etc. to the college. Clause 18, statutes of the college. Clause 19, and clause 20, powers of the council to decide meaning of laws. Those in favor that those clauses stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 21 on page 23. Clause 22, removal of certain members of council. Clause 23, the visitor. And clause 24, removal of certain members of the council. Those in favor of those clauses stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 25 on page 25, removal and discipline of academic, administrative, and technical staff. Clause 26, clause 27, appointment of external examiners, and clause 28, removal of examiners. Those in favor that those clauses stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 29, discipline of students. Clause 30, exclusion of discrimination on account of race, religion, etc. Clause 31, those in favor that those two clauses stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clause 32, quorum and procedure of bodies established by this law. Clause 33, appointment of committees. And clause 34, the seal of the college. Those in favor that clauses 32, 33, and 34 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the interpretation stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the schedules stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion that the chair reports progress. I so move.
No, hold on, please. Your mic is not working. Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do now revert to the plenary to report progress. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverse to plenary for the chair to report progress, say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Distinguished colleagues, the Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the report of the Committee on Health on the Federal College of Complementary and Alternative Medicine of Nigeria, FEDCAM, and to make comprehensive provision for its due administration, Establishment Bill 2021, and approved as follows. Long title as recommended. The clauses as recommended. Interpretation as recommended. Short title as recommended. Schedules as recommended. Explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to a motion that this bill be read the third time. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this bill be now read the third time. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that this bill be now read the third time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment and incorporation of the Federal College of Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine of Nigeria, and to make comprehensive provisions for its due administration and for matters connected therewith, 2021, SB 394, third reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment and incorporation of the Federal College of Traditional, Complementary and Alternative Medicine of Nigeria, Abuja, and to make comprehensive provisions for its due administration and for matters connected therewith, 2021, third reading taken, and the bill is passed. Congratulations. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the fifth order of the day is the second reading of an executive bill standing on my name on the Petroleum Industry Act Amendment Bill 2021. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 21st September 2021. Mr. President, with your permission, I move that the bill be read the second time.
Go ahead. You may proceed, Leader. Leader, use your mic, please.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, it's my pleasure and I am delighted to lead the debate on this very important bill before us today. This is an executive bill which seeks to amend the Petroleum Industry Act that was passed and assented only very recently. The bill was read the first time in this hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 29 September 2021. The Petroleum Industry Act 2021 provided for the appointment of two non-executive directors for the board of the two regulatory institutions. The membership limitation did not address the principle of balanced geopolitical representation in the country. This bill therefore seeks to correct this oversight in the interest of our national unity. Needless to add that this amendment bill will provide a sense of participation and inclusion to almost every section of the country in the decision-making of strategic institutions that manage the oil industry. The enactment of this amendment will allow the increase on number of non-executive directors from 2 to 6, that is one person from each of the nation's 6 geopolitical zones. The amendment sought by this bill will increase the membership of this board from 9 to 13 members. That is representing 44% expansion of the board size. This composition will strengthen the institutions and guarantee national spread and also achieve the expected policy contribution. The two ministries already have constitutional responsibilities of either supervision or intergovernmental relations. They can continue to perform such roles without being in the board. It is also important to note that administratively, the representatives of the ministries on the board will be directors, being the same rank with the directors of the institutions. This may bring some complications in some decision-making, especially on issues that have relation with staff matters. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the Act has made provision for 7 departmental heads of the authority to be known as executive directors to be subject to Senate confirmation. This category of officers are civil servants and not political appointees. Therefore, there is need to exempt serving public officers from established confirmation processes for political appointments. This will ensure effective management of regulatory institutions through uniform implementation of public service rules for employees of the authority. In the future, these positions will obviously be filled by workers in the authority through career progression in conformity with the rules and regulations of the Federal Civil Service. The proposed amendment to the Industry Act 2021 is strictly about administrative structure of the institutions. It's aimed at laying sound administrative structures governed by simple operational laws that would ensure smooth takeoff and consequent growth of the two institutions. It is also in line with this administration's commitment to carry out petroleum industry reform. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I request your kind consideration of this amendment in the Petroleum Industry Act to reflect this important national aspiration and to complete the gallant strides that we have made and the achievement that this distinguished Senate, the 9th Senate, has made to reposition the Nigerian petroleum industry. I therefore that this bill be read the second time with your permission. I so submit, Mr. President.
Senator Mohammed Ali Ndume.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, Mohammed Ali Ndume representing Borno South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you will recall that when we passed this historic bill, which was signed into law, we said that this is the first time and it will be subject to amendment. And the lead debate by the Senate leader is self-explanatory enough. I think this is something that we should be welcoming, and we should just pass it on to the appropriate committee so that the necessary legislative action will be taken. That's my contribution, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Gabriel Suswam.
Yeah, Mr. President, Dr. Gabriel Suswam, Benue Northeast. Mr. President, I want to join Senator Nduma in supporting this amendment as proposed by the leader of the Senate. But Mr. President, in doing that, I want to make an appeal. Mr. President, I want to make an appeal. I want him to, the appeal is directly to him. Mr. President, I want to make an appeal in supporting this amendment. You are not in a position to act on the appeal. Mr. President, I want to make an appeal in supporting the amendment of this bill. Mr. President, this appeal is directly to you because several board appointments have been made since we resumed. Mr. President, it is unfortunate that Benue has been consciously excluded.
Distinguished Senator Gabriel Suswam, please, I thought you will address the real issue, not, we're not talking about appointments here. You can make that case in another, yes.
I want to support the fact that amendments seek to unify the country by creating additional 4 executive non-directors to make it 6, so that it covers all the geo zones. In the appointment of the one from North Central, Benue should be considered, Mr. President. That is my appeal.
I don't know whether you know what to do if you want that. Senator Suswam, I'm sure you know what to do if you want it to go to Benue. No. Okay, any more contributions, please? The minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Order.
While considering this second reading paper by the leader, I'm a little confused about exactly what it is that is sought to be amended. First, on the first part, it says the membership is being increased from 9 to 13 to take care of the geopolitical zones, which I agree. But on the second part, that is on the second page, it now says that the Act has made a provision for 7 departmental heads to be known as executive directors, subject to Senate confirmation, and that these category of officers are civil servants and not political appointees. So I need to know, is the Act also amending that side to say that they ought to be civil servants? If that is what is sought, I also think that what we're doing is nothing but also inserting in this new regulatory agency the seeds of its own problems in future. We know how the civil service works. If the civil service is now going to also be inserted into this so-called independent agency, and you have to get to executive director by promotion and all that you will now do is that the problem that led us to amending NMPC and breaking up NMPC into these component parts will still surface again there. So I would like...
Okay, Minority Leader, my understanding is, first, there are 2 executive commissioners in the case of the commission and 2 executive in the authority. What the amendment is seeking is to introduce 4 additional for commission as well as 4 for the authority, to make it 6 so in each case, and that will be 12, so that each geopolitical zone will have a representation in both the commission and the regulatory authority. That is that. The second one is in the Act itself, in PIA, there is provision for executive directors who are supposed to be civil servants. What this bill is trying to cure is to leave out these people because their own is statutory and they don't even need to be confirmed by the Senate because they're not a political appointment. It's career progression. So and the position of executive director is removed. It's just director. So it's not like they are going to be confirmed. Yes, they have their own directors, they just run the directors. So I think it's very clear. But let me also take the opportunity to make some comments here. Yesterday, we passed a very important bill, the electricity reform bill introduced, sponsored by Senator Gabriel Suswam. I want to take this opportunity to appeal to all stakeholders in the electricity industry to participate in the public hearing, especially those in government institutions, so that when we pass the bill eventually, nobody goes to sabotage it or undermine it in any way. So we want the participation of everyone. We don't want anybody to come and say, we were never invited to the public hearing. The public hearing will take place at the appropriate time, and the notice will be given for people, for the public to participate. But please, because we almost face this kind of problem with the petrol industry bill, when some of the stakeholders, major stakeholders, say they didn't know there was public hearing. And let me also commend the executive for starting the immediate implementation of this act, because this is how it is supposed to be. And now we have started realizing there are some gaps which we are trying to cure. And this is to the credit of this National Assembly for passing that bill, and to the credit of the President for signing it, and implementation starting immediately. Because I'm sure this bill will still come back, this act will still come back for amendment, because as we explore the implementation process, we might recognize that we need to firm up in some places and maybe reduce some responsibilities. But this is a very important step of implementing the Petroleum Industry Act. Thank you very much. Is there any more contributions? Yeah, Senator Sadiq Umar Suleiman.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar. I represent the good and decent people of Kwara North, and we all are. While I thank the executive for doing what we expected after passing the PIB, now PIA. A continuous adjustment is necessary, and we are aware of this. Now we are talking about a balanced geopolitical representation. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, this is very important. However, I do think what is more important is to ensure that we have capable professionals who will come into this board to achieve what we seek out to achieve, which is to ensure our petroleum industry survives. Yes, it's true, there is argument that oil might give way for renewable energy, but we do know that oil will remain a major player in the global energy mix for several years to come. And PIA is our way in this country to make sure the industry survives. So that's my first appeal to the executive, Mr. President. My second appeal, Mr. President, is to appeal to Senator Gabriel Suswa to allow not only Kwara, but Kwara North to take the part of North Central. That's my appeal, Mr. President.
Senator Kabir Barkia.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Let me also congratulate the presenter of this. And I will have this to say, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. Second page, when they say the categories of officers are civil servants and not political appointees. Of course, according to civil service rules and regulations, executive directors are supposed to be part of the management, not board members, until unless if maybe stated in the act of that agency that yes, executive directors are supposed to be part of the board. But if not, according to civil service rules and regulations, executive directors are only part of the management, not board members. We have many examples, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, whereby even like there are some agencies, of course, maybe it was a mistake of the executive, part of the executive, they just included the executive directors, as part of the, board members, while they are not supposed to. Because even in the act of that agency, I don't want to mention the agency, the act stated that, of course, the executive director is, according to civil service rule, only part of the management, not board members. So we have to look at it, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. If, of course, in the act there's provision that, yes, these executive directors are part of the board members, according to the act, that's when then we can. If not, according to civil service rule, they are just part of management staff. Thank you very much.
Distinguished, okay, Senator Jibril.
Mr. President, thank you for giving me the chance to speak. I'm Senator Abaro Jibril, representing Kano North. Mr. President, mine is to commend Mr. President for being able to discover this mistake and put forward this bill to the National Assembly. It shows that Mr. President is a leader. Of course, we know he's a leader that is very much interested in equity and also making sure that we have the needed national unity. This is clearly shown in this bill. So I just want to commend him for doing that and to continue on this trajectory. I say submit, Mr. President.
Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 to provide legal governance, regulatory and fiscal framework for the Nigerian petroleum industry, the development of host communities and correlated matters 2021 SB 817 second reading.
A bill for an act to amend the Petroleum Industry Act 2021 to provide legal, governance, regulatory, and fiscal framework for the Nigerian petroleum industry, the development of host communities, and for related matters 2021 second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Senate committees on petroleum upstream, petroleum downstream, and gas to report by within 4 weeks, with Committee on Downstream as the lead committee. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the sixth order of the day the second reading of the Chartered Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering in Nigeria Establishment Bill 2021. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Wednesday, 9th June 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite Distinguished Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Distinguished Senator Sadiq Suleiman Umar.
Thank you, Mr. President. My distinguished colleagues, I am Sadiq Suleiman Umar. I represent the good and decent people of Kwara North, and we all are. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, permit me to lead the debate on a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Chartered Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering of Nigeria to certify, regulate, and determine the standards of knowledge and practice to be attained by persons seeking to become chartered electrical and electronic engineering personnel. The bill was read for the first time in the hallowed chamber on Wednesday, 9th June 2021. The Nigerian Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineers, NIEEE, which now seek to be chartered as CIEEN, was established in 1984 as a group of current registered electrical engineers. Today, NIEEE houses all the specialities of electrical engineering disciplines and currently has chapters in all states of the Federation and the Federal Capital Territory. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the electrical and electronic engineering sector comprises of a broad set of engineering, personnel, and professionals with membership of over 180,000 and background practice in one or more of the fields of power engineering, electronics, clean energy, telecommunication, system processing, broadcasting, instrumentation, optics and photonics, hardware engineering, and so on. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, big data, blockchain technology, and the likes are engaged in one or more of the following types of activities: electrical manufacturing industry, electrical maintenance, construction and contracting industries, application of electricity and electronics to medical science, aeronautics, maritime, automobiles, and study, teaching, research, development pertaining to any field of engineering or applied sciences of electricity and electronics. The very essence of this bill is to, one, promote professional competence and excellence among members through innovative contribution and development of sustainable solutions to challenging engineering problems by deploying efficient technologies and systems for the benefit of mankind. Two, determine what standards of knowledge and skill are to be attained by persons seeking to become members of electrical and electronic engineering profession, and raising to those standards from time to time as circumstances may permit. Provide for the registration, certification, and standardization where required of professional electrical and electronic engineering personnel. Register, certify, and standardize the practice, education, services, equipment, systems, products, and qualifications. Register, certify, and standardize corporations, partnerships, limited liability partnerships, and limited partnerships, etc. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in view of the facts enumerated above and lack of any regulation, certification, and standardization organization, there is a need for the establishment of Chartered Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering of Nigeria, which will effectively close the gap and regulate this very all-important and specialized sector. Going by its objectives, therefore, this will promote high professional standards, ethics, and so on amongst our members in a bid to wipe out cases of professional misconduct. The bill has no financial implication on government, as the institute will rely solely on member subscription for its operations. Therefore, I urge you all to support the expeditious passage of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues.
Senator Brian Hassan Hadeja.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Senator Ibrahim Hassan Hadeja, Jigawa Northeast. In rising to support this bill, Mr. President, I would just like to commend the sponsor for this very brilliant submission, especially the highlighting of the importance of electrical and electronic engineering. Mr. President, in today's world where Nigeria is moving towards a digital economy, where we have remained our main ministry to reflect that pursuit, I think it's important to know, Mr. President, that behind the scenes of the very glamorous ICT world and computer engineering, electrical and electronic engineers are actually the backbone of that industry. And so their regulation, I think, is coming at a very, very critical time in this nation's progress. If we leave it unregulated, just like the sponsor has mentioned, we might have a problem with people without the requisite certification and experience being drafted to push our ICT drive. And this will have very, very far-reaching consequences for what we are trying to achieve with the digital economy. So, Mr. President, I support this bill in its entirety, and I urge my colleagues to also take a positive look at this bill. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Is there anyone against the bill? Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering of Nigeria to certify, regulate, and determine the standard of knowledge and practice to be attained by persons seeking to become Chartered Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering personnel, and for related matters 2021 SB 741, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Chartered Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering of Nigeria to certify, regulate, and determine the standards of knowledge and practice to be attained by persons seeking to become Chartered Institute of Electrical and Electronic Engineering personnel, and for related matters 2021 second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Establishment and Public Service Matters to report by within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate. Distinguished, please leave the aisle. Yes.
The seventh order of the day is the second reading of the Federal College of Education, Federal College of Agriculture, Shani, Borno State Establishment Bill 2021. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 1st June 2021. Mr. President, we may wish to invite distinguished Senator Muhammad Ali Ndume to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Distinguished Senator Muhammad Ali Ndume.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, Mohamed Ali Ndume, representing Borno South. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm delighted to be permitted to lead the debate on a bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Agriculture, Shani, in Borno State. As the leader said, the bill was read for the first time on 1st June. This bill seeks to address the need for agric education, training, research institution, not only for Borno State, but the entire Northeast region, which has no single federal university of agriculture or any conventional tertiary agricultural institution, despite its size, its significant land mass and population. The federal mandate of the college will therefore enhance agricultural research and development, not only in the Northeast, but in the entire country. Agriculture and its allied sectors are unquestionably the largest livelihood provider, especially in the rural areas, and can contribute significantly to the GDP. Demand for agricultural products is rising rapidly with increase in population and per capita income. As a result, there is growing demand for agricultural products from industrial sector. The Federal College of Agriculture, Shani, when established, will provide for the holistic development of agricultural education, knowledge, skills, and extension services. This initiative will accelerate agricultural growth rate, enhance farmers' income, and generate employment in the sector. More significantly, this initiative will engage the large number of idle population, especially our youth in rural areas, to find decent means of livelihood. This will reduce the large number of people, especially the youth, from migrating from urban cities. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you may be aware that Borno State and the entire northeastern states are purely agricultural states. Agriculture cannot be practiced in modern times using the traditional methods without scientific knowledge and skills that will guide the entire farming process to increase agricultural yields and quality. The significance of agriculture in facilitating economic development in the country cannot be overemphasized. It is the highest employer of labor and contributes 30.77% and 26.97% in the third and fourth quarters of 2019 and 22.35 and 22.13 in the first and second quarter of 2021, respectively. The bill seeks to, among other things, establish a Federal College of Education in Borno State to train agriculturalists and farmers in the Northeast and Nigeria, to serve as institution for advanced agricultural research in all fields of agriculture and animal husbandry, to produce qualified Nigerians to offer services to farmers in response to increasing demands for food and other means of livelihood which agriculture will provide, to develop realistic and practically oriented curriculum to train qualified persons to acquire certificates in diploma and degrees in various fields of agriculture, research, practice, science, and technology, and to provide an avenue for internship, teaching practice, refresher courses, and orientation programs for students related to tertiary institutions, local farmers, agricultural extension, desk liaison, and program officers in related MDAs and private sector, to develop and offer academic and professional programs leading to award of certificates, degrees, postgraduate research, diploma, and higher degrees, with emphasis on planning, developmental, and adaptive skills in education, technology, applied sciences, agriculture, commerce, and other humanities. Act as agent and catalyst for effective agricultural system through postgraduate training, research, and innovation for effective economic utilization and conservation of the country's human resources, training and research and development of agriculture. Undertake any other activities that is appropriate for a College of Agriculture of the highest standard. Mr. President and distinguished colleagues, before I conclude, let me add that this proposed College of Agriculture is bordering two states of Adamawa and Gombe that are contagious. That also will take care of more states, as we say. And additionally, Mr. President, In the entire Northeast, as I said, we don't have a single tertiary institute of agriculture, despite the fact that we have 17 in the country. So, Mr. President, my distinguished colleague, let me conclude by expressing my gratitude for your usual cooperation in supporting proposals that seek to eradicate illiteracy, poverty, and unemployment in our country. The establishment of Federal College of Agriculture, Shani, will go a long way to contribute in this regard. In line with Order 773 of the Senate Standing Order 2015, as amended, a compendium of the financial implication of the establishment of the college is also attached. It rounds up to about $1 billion per year. I thank you for all the kind attention and solicit your support for the expeditious passage of this bill. Thank you, distinguished colleagues.
Senator Abdullahi Adamu.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues, I rise to lend support on this bill for the establishment of Federal College of Agriculture, Shani, Borno State, 2021 SB 732. Sponsored by my very good friend and brother and colleague, distinguished Senator Ndume Mohammed Ali. The establishment of this college in Shani, in Borno State, which is going to be in the immediate neighborhood of states that are contiguous to the location that is being proposed for the establishment of this college, is such that it's of great importance and urgency, given the devastation that has visited that part of this country, the Northeast, and considering the role that agriculture plays in the daily lives of our citizenry, establishing such a college that will ensure the training of relevant operators in the agricultural sector of the economy in that part of the country cannot be overemphasized. I have no hesitation whatsoever to lend my voice in this regard. The only observation I want to make in supporting this bill is the fact that there is something that is going to be a bit peculiar in that college once it is established in the spirit of this legislation under consideration. And that is, colleges of agriculture that exist in this country do not offer degree programs. They offer ordinary diploma, national diploma, and higher national diploma. This will be an innovation to make it possible for College of Agriculture to be able to award degree programs. This presupposes that we have to take, or once it is passed, there has to be a very, very deep and careful consideration as to the curriculum that will be developed for the courses to be undertaken in this college once established. But I believe very strongly that there is no such college within its neighborhood or all the states in that zone. So the need for this is really pressing, and it is my desire that we should expedite action in ensuring that this bill is passed as conceived, so that by the time we get the blessings of the executive lending support and giving its executive assent, we will be able to see the relief that young people, young boys and girls from that part of the country will benefit from the establishment of this institution. I therefore so support, Mr. President.
Those in favor that this will be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Agriculture, Shani, Borno State, to provide full-time courses of agricultural teaching, instruction and training in sciences, social sciences, commerce, arts, applied sciences, management and humanities, and carry out research, innovation, development and adaptation of teaching techniques, and for other related matters, 2021, SB 732, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal College of Agriculture, Shani, Borno State, to provide full-time courses of agriculture, teaching, instruction, and training in the sciences, social sciences, commerce, arts, applied sciences, management and humanities, and to carry out research, innovation, development, and adaptation of teaching techniques, and for other related matters, 2021 second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Committee on Tertiary Institutions and Debt Fund to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 8th order of the day is the second reading of the National Rural Employment Guarantee Bill 2021. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this chamber on Tuesday, 22nd June 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite the distinguished Senator Mohammed Sani Musa to move a motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Senator Mohammed Sani Musa.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Mohammed Sani Musa, representing Niger East. I lead debate on the National Rural Employment Guarantee Bill 2021. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm delighted to lead the debate on this very important bill, which seeks to provide for the enhancement of livelihood security of the households in rural areas of the country by providing at least 100 days of guaranteed wage employment in every financial year to every household whose adult members volunteer to do unskilled manual work. It also seeks to provide a safety net for the rural poor with the potential to boost rural income, stabilize agricultural production, and reduce rural-urban migration. The bill was read the first time on Tuesday, 22nd June 2021. This bill introduced a national anti-poverty program which will offer up to 100 days of unskilled manual labor per year on public works projects. The objectives of the bill are to enhance livelihood security in rural areas by providing at least 100 days of guaranteed wage employment in a financial year to every household whose adult members volunteer to do unskilled manual work. Ensure a strong social safety net for the vulnerable groups by providing a fallback employment source when other employment alternatives are scarce or inadequate. Ensure growth engine for sustainable development of an agricultural economy through the process of providing employment on works that addresses causes of chronic poverty such as drought, deforestation, and soil erosion. Strengthen the natural resources base of rural livelihood and create durable assets in rural areas which when effectively implemented has the potential to transform the geography of poverty. Empower rural poor through the processes of rights-based law, and discover new ways of doing business as a model of governance reform anchored on the principles of transparency and grassroots democracy, and though fosters conditions for inclusive growth ranging from basic wage, security, and recharging rural economy to a transformative empowerment process of democracy. The National Rural Employment Guarantee will ensure that up to 100 days of paid work per year for poor adults. It aims to reduce poverty by providing extra work for those who need it, while also providing empowerment and insurance when other sources of work dry up. It will guarantee employment at a predetermined wage aimed at providing income security to the otherwise unemployed, has been a long-standing stable policy for governments worldwide, starting with the Poor Employment Act of 1817 in Britain, and later on the New Deal programs in the United States in the 1930s. Government's intervention in the labor market as an employer of the last resort has been adopted as an integral feature of labor market policies in many developing countries over the last few decades. We can take example with the special public works that Nigeria wanted to do, empowering, was 1,000 from each local government or so. Recent examples of the latter include public work programs in India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Philippines, Egypt, Botswana, Kenya, and Chile. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is now widely recognized that labor market intervention through rural EGS programs generate both income support for the poor as well as raise agricultural productivity over the long run. As examples, the EGS in Maharashtra has been credited with averting a famine during the drought of the 1970s and 73, and alleviating poverty, while the Rural Public Works Program in Bangladesh has been commended for its contribution to rural development and increased agricultural production through the creation and maintenance of rural infrastructure. In this context, the NREG can be thought of as a policy to boost rural income, stabilize agricultural production, and reduce rural-urban migration. This bill therefore provides a legal guarantee for 100 days of employment in every financial year to adult members of any rural household willing to do public works, related unskilled manual work at the statutory minimum wage. The Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development will be monitoring the entire implementation of this scheme in association with the state governments. Mr. President, distinguished senators, I solicit your support for the second reading of this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Comrade Senator Smart Ademi.
Mr. President, I want to thank you once again to Musa Sani. Today, Mr. President, unemployment is a serious problem in our country. And in fact, Mr. President, it's a global problem. But like it's been done in many nations of the world, they have in place a social security agency. Perhaps, Mr. President, more than any government in contemporary Nigeria, this government invested so much in palliative measures towards alleviating the suffering of people. But I think, Mr. President, we must be honest with ourselves that good as that intention of government with this palliative is, in many areas it was abused. It was abused because even the downtrodden people that were championing their cause, many of them are not honest. You see a lot of duplications of names when you are asking for people to submit names for palliatives. So I think, Mr. President, the time has come for us to take the problem of
unemployment as a serious national issue that demands emergency solution. We must put the laws in place to establish an agency formally for social security. And it must be an agency, Mr. President, that will spread across all the local government areas that we have in our country, so that they can take stock of those people who are qualified to benefit from social security. And in doing that, of course, the BVN will be one thing that must be put in place, so that those who are working, who are gainfully employed, will not come and abuse it. In our nation today, Mr. President, most of these palliatives that this present government has put in place, it has been abused, because you have a situation where names are duplicated. It's even difficult for you to know who you are serving, you are benefiting. So I think the bill that my brother is seeking is for us to improve upon this bill, Mr. President, is to have a formal agency for social security that will take care of unemployment problems and even health problems of people who are not gainfully employed. It must be holistic. This bill is good, the intention is good, but I think, Mr. President, this bill must go further to make it a holistic solution to the problem of unemployment in our nation, so that it is not abused, and so that in every local government of Nigeria, you have an agency in charge who will take care of problem of unemployment of our people, and that when they are benefiting, they could benefit directly, and we can monitor it. Because we just say rural employment guarantee bill. This law, on what framework will it work? We must have the framework in place, and we must have the law in place. And in having the law, it must be equally have the punitive measures of those who will abuse it, so that people will know that this bill is intended to alleviate the suffering of people, and by extension, Mr. President, guarantee security of our nation. Most of the people who are into crime today is out of frustration of unemployment. We have a large army of people unemployed today. We have up to 200 universities and polytechnics producing graduates. So I think, Mr. President, we must advise our government, be progressive as this government is with palliatives. This palliative is being abused. Let us formalize the palliative measures, having a social security agency in every local government of Nigeria, and let us put the law in place that will make sure that nobody abuses it. I so submit, Mr. President.
Distinguished Senator Chumaroke Nnamani, Enugu East.
Thank you, Your Excellency, Senate President. My name is Chimaroke Nnamani, and I represent Enugu East Senatorial Zone. I thank distinguished Senator for bringing up this bill. It's all about poverty. Africa has gone through several assaults. Assault of slavery, assault of colonialism, military adventurism, death, enslavement, and now poverty. Poverty index in Nigeria is about 52%. It means that over 89 million Nigerians live under extreme poverty, absolute poverty. Despite the so-called economic growth in our country, it has not affected the incidence of poverty, because economic growth without economic development means poverty, inequality, and unemployment. What this bill has addressed is that poverty cannot just disappear. Government has to take a concerted action to address poverty. Talked about Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the New Deal 1933 that addressed poverty. The Marshall Plan that addressed poverty. And of course, the Great Society by Lyndon Baines Johnson. So what it means that our country has to take concerted action, not just intermittent palliatives, but actions that are permanent, that are holistic to address poverty. It is only when that is done that poverty can be addressed in this country. So I subscribe
and support this bill. Thank you.
Distinguished Senator Abdullah Gobir. No, it's okay, Abdullah Adam.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. I am Senator Abdullah Adamu, and I represent Nasarawa West. Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, this bill, or this proposed bill, touches the emotion, if not the conscience, of every Nigerian who is in a position to have an assessment of the position of Nigerians, particularly the youth, in terms of this poverty index and the need to salvage what we can salvage at the nick of time. Mr. President, going back to the time when we made an effort as a country to develop our 2020 agenda, the issue of what to do to salvage our youth from the clutches of poverty was addressed, and what one asks today is whether we were thorough enough in that effort and to what extent we went to implement the 2020 agenda, even after the amendments to that agenda. This administration can be commendable, or be commended rather, for the effort it has made to address social security in the country. Mr. President, I don't think we've ever had a time like we have now where the vulnerability of our youth in the regime of poverty that they have to live their lives, and as a result of vulnerability, how they get easily mobilized, in the kind of banditry that we have been fighting as a country over time. The risk that we face in the security, the army of soldiers recruited for this banditry and the insurgency, constituency is our youth. And this youth, the preponderance of this youth are from the rural areas. And if we have had in place the relevant, applicable social security system, probably the vulnerability will not have been as deep as we experience today. There is therefore a pressing need for us to take a look at this bill and to apply it in the face of making every Nigerian believe that we are in a state of emergency as far as the issue of salvaging our youth from the risks that they face for being mobilized, to do the wrong against their motherland. They do this not because they have choice. Some of them don't have choices. The orientation is poor, and poverty itself is at the bedrock of the society in which they find themselves. This being the case, we have to find a way to address the issue of the effort the government has done this far in the social security opportunities that government has unfolded over the past 5-6 years. Poverty alleviation is at the center of this bill, and we need to stand up to it to address it, to secure our young ones. They run the risk of not only exposing themselves, their lives to danger, but where they are able to do so, to get drafted, the entire country faces the danger that their youthful energies will exert on us. I believe very strongly that this bill will go a long way to cushion some of the problems that our youth face, particularly in the rural areas of this great country. I so support the bill.
Deputy Leader.
Mr. President, even though my point, the point I wanted to make has been made by previous speakers, but I need to add my voice to this. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I think no administration has ever shown interest in the plight of poor people, unemployed people in this country more than the present administration. And I want to congratulate my colleague who brought us this matter for debate. Mr. President, it is obvious from our own experience that these have been abused, either by the operators or even the beneficiaries. You find a situation where a man will write his name, his wife's name, his children's name as beneficiary of one program. And personally, I've lost count of the various programs introduced by this country. You have the traders' money, you have the money market, you have the direct bank transfer, you have the one being implemented by the central bank. There are so many. Ministry of Labor has its own. Trade and investment has its own. Education has its own. And they are not coordinated. Agriculture has its own. Central bank has its own. So I think the time has come when all these things have to be coordinated. Humanitarian affairs has its own. They should be coordinated, and as my colleague said, there should be an agency in charge to make sure that this is sanitized and this thing gets to the right people. The need for this to be codified is seen in the US, where Trump tried desperately to kill Obamacare. He couldn't kill it because it's been codified. So if this is codified, it will be a legacy that this administration will leave for Nigerians. And I'm sure Nigerians will be happy that they have a situation where the poor and the unemployed will be taken care of. Thank you, Mr. President.
Those in favor of this bill will now read a second time say aye. Those against say nay, the ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the enhancement of livelihood security of the household in rural areas of the country by providing at least 100 days of guaranteed wage employment in every financial year to every household whose adult members volunteer to do unskilled manual work and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. 2021 SB 747, second reading.
A bill for an act to provide for the enhancement of livelihood security of the households in rural areas of the country by providing at least 100 days of guaranteed wage employment in every financial year to every household whose adult members volunteer to do unskilled manual work and for matters connected therewith or incidental thereto. 2021 second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Committee on Agricultural Development report by within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the ninth order of the day is the second reading of the Smallholder Farmers Protection Bill 2021, SB 685. Distinguished senators will recall that the bill was read the first time in this distinguished chamber on Wednesday, 24th March 2021. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Muhammad Bima Enagi to move the motion for the bill to be read the second time.
Distinguished Senator Bima Mohammed Enagi.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, my highly respected, distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator B. Muhammad Enegi. I represent the people of Niger South from Niger State. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I wish to lead the debate on a bill for an act to protect smallholder farmers from land grabbing under the guise of large-scale agricultural mechanization or overriding public interest, climate change, and communal conflicts by enforcing the conduct of environmental impact assessment, EIA, timely farmers' compensation and relocation plans, access to credit facilities, prompt availability of farm inputs, infrastructural development, and other related matters. Mr. President, my highly respected, distinguished colleagues, about 70% of the nation's population of over 200 million are farmers, and smallholder farmers constitute over 90% of that population. Smallholder farmer is one owning small-sized plot of land, not exceeding a hectare, on which he grows mainly subsistence crops and 1 or 2 cash crops, relying almost exclusively on family labor and basic production resources available to him. The smallholder farmers produce about 95% of the food consumed in the country. They are the backbone of the Nigerian agricultural sector and deserve every support to produce more food, grow more raw materials for the agro-industrial sector, and contribute in ending a full supply deficit that costs the country about $10 million in food import annually. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, report shows that the average age today of a farmer in Nigeria is about 57 years. And by the year 2020, this will rise to 77 years. The question that comes to mind is what quantity of food can these aged farmers produce using physical labor for such a rising population by the year 2030 and beyond. Furthermore, Nigerian youth who can bring energy, vitality, and innovation are not into agriculture and are not interested in going into it for various reasons. Before the recent security challenges, the annual food production growth in Nigeria was put at 3.7%, as against 6.5% growth in the annual demand for food. Population growth is about 2.6%, and if the smallholder farmers are not protected and empowered, there will be serious food security challenges in the very near future. Smallholder farmers, who constitute over 90% of the farming population and produce over 95% of food consumed in this country, are increasingly faced with a mix of challenges, including those that are naturally occurring and those that are caused by man, that influence their capacity to increase food production and move towards profitable farming systems. These challenges lead farmers to undertake lower risk and lower yielding agricultural activities that perpetuate a cycle of poverty and hunger. These challenges include little or no compensation for land grab from them, cultural factors that hinder women from owning farmlands, lack of access to financial services, credit, savings, insurance, high reliance on climate-dependent agriculture, lack of linkages to markets and industries, lack of subsidy and extension services, rural-urban migration, and untimely support by governments. Furthermore, despite the numerous policy interventions, the agricultural sector is still largely underdeveloped because the key stakeholders, who are the smallholder farmers, are not represented nor well considered in policy formulation and implementation, and lack of enabling law recognizing their rights, as well as cooperatives and independent farmers organizations to participate in the formulation, planning, management, and implementation of agricultural programs and projects. Thus, the bill seeks to make agriculture attractive to the youth, protect women from being denied land on the basis of cultural factors, improve the ability of smallholder farmers to credit facilities, extension services,
and prompt availability of farm inputs. Ensure the conduct of environmental impact assessment and timely relocation plans and compensation. The bill also seeks to address other challenges listed below facing smallholder farmers. Number 1, implement the Growth Enhancement Support Scheme, GESS, in a sustainable manner to ensure that all smallholder farmers' data are collected through a well-designed offline and online application with use of smartphones to capture their farm coordinates and ensure that they have continuous access to direct subsidies on all agricultural inputs such as quality fertilizers, seeds, herbicides, and pesticides. 2, ensure the presentation of verifiable environmental impact assessment, EIA, reports for large-scale agricultural and infrastructure projects on lands used by smallholder farmers for agricultural purposes. Ensure the preparation and implementation of compensation and relocation plans that must be economically reasonable and verifiable for smallholder farmers dislodged from their primary sources of livelihood as a result of land grabbing, either for commercial purposes or overriding public interest. The government shall provide opportunities to farmers to have timely access to ownership or management of production resources related to farming. The government, through the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, agencies and institutions in the agricultural sector, engage smallholder farmers and strengthen their capacity for sustainable food production by putting in place a robust nationwide extension services. And lastly, ensure that the government, through the Bank of Agriculture, put in place sustainable utilization, such as agricultural credit and condition grants that will be accessible by only smallholder farmers. Overview of the clauses. The bill contains 23 clauses with interpretation of the bill. Clause 1 to 7 deals with the establishment, objectives, and rights, obligations of smallholder farmers. Clauses 9 to 14 contain provisions for infrastructure support and services, while 15 to 17 deal with provisions of inputs. Clause 18 contains provision for incentives, while clauses 19 to 22 talks about protection of smallholder farmers in Nigeria. Clause 23 deals with interpretation. Conclusion. Finally, Mr. President, my highly respected distinguished colleagues, I urge you to give your support to this bill as it will protect and empower the smallholder farmers that constitute about 70% of the population. It will boost the development of agriculture as the population of Nigeria is growing at very high rate and the food demand is rising accordingly. Indeed, the Nigerian population is expected to reach over 400 million by the year 2050. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, the objectives and provisions of the bill is very laudable, and I have no doubt in my mind it will receive the necessary support from all of us and given the accelerated legislative backing for its quick passage. I implore you to support the second reading of this bill. Thank you for listening.
Senator Jibrin Isa Jibrin.
Mr. President, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Distinguished colleagues, I am Isa Jibrin, representing Kogi East. Mr. President, first I want to thank the sponsor of this bill for presenting a very well articulated challenges and solutions of the small-scale farmers in Nigeria. I want to believe that this is a very well articulated, people-oriented bill that deserves support from everybody here. Small-scale farmers do not have the capacity for large-scale farming. Like he said, they are mainly subsistence farmers, taking care of their families and selling the little surplus from time to time to take care of some of their other needs. The trend now is that the mechanized farmers are gradually taking over almost all the arable lands in Nigeria. While we encourage mechanized farming so as to address the issue of food self-sufficiency in Nigeria, I believe that the small-scale farmers still need to be very well protected. Because these people are, category of farmers are very much concerned with taking care of their immediate families and, like I said earlier, selling little surplus from time to time to take care of their other needs. So I want to support wholeheartedly the second reading of this bill, and I want to urge the federal government to provide all forms of succor and all forms of support to small-scale farmers so that they can continue to do what they have been doing in terms of feeding their families and taking care of their other needs. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Those in favor that this bill be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to protect and empower smallholders farmers through strengthening their capacity and to protect them from land grabbing and other related matters 2021 SB 685, second reading.
A bill for an act to protect and empower smallholders farmers through strengthening their capacity and to protect them from land grabbing and other related matters 2021, second reading taken. And the bill is referred to the Committee on Agriculture and Rural Development to report back within 4 weeks. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 10th order of the day is a motion standing in the name of distinguished Senator Ibrahim Abdullahi Gobir and 8 others on the banditry in Sokoto State, particularly Sokoto East Senatorial District. Mr. President, you may wish to invite distinguished Senator Ibrahim Abdullahi Gobir to move the motion.
Distinguished Senator Ibrahim Abdullahi Gobir.
Thank you very much, Excellency. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Senator Ibrahim Gobir, proposing the motion on the banditry in Sokoto, particularly Sokoto Senatorial District. The motion was actually born out of genuine desire for people to see exactly what is happening in Sokoto currently. So, the Senate notes that Sokoto Senatorial District has now become a safe haven for the bandits due to the current crackdown taking place in Zamfara State. Concerned that on Saturday, 25th September 2021, 21 security personnel were killed in Dama and the Gangara villages by rampaging bandits. 15 of them soldiers, 3 mobile police, while 3 members of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps. In addition to yet to be ascertained the number of civilians from the neighboring villages. This has gone to portray the seriousness of the problem, which requires concerted and urgent action by the declaration of total war on banditry. In fact, the information received now is that about 15 civilians were killed. Some were burnt alive in the Rumbu where they are putting grains. Worried that losing such a number of trained security personnel will further deplete the numerical strengths of the security personnel we have in the country, thereby jeopardizing the security architecture of the country. Further worried that most of the bandits have now relocated to Sabumbini and the East local governments due to the sustained military operation at the Zamfara State axis. Concerned that while the crackdown on the bandits was taking place in Zamfara State, no concerted effort or concrete measures had been taken in Sokoto State, leaving it totally exposed to the activities of the bandits. And the further worried that the present military onslaught on the bandits is not well coordinated because it is only being orchestrated in Zamfara State instead of all the frontline states ravaged by banditry, i.e. Sokoto, Katsina, Niger, and the Kaduna states. The operation should be holistic instead of restrictive in order to produce effective and the desired results. And therefore, in this case, the various governments, state governments should actually take the path of Zamfara State to make sure that they also have the same onslaught in their states. Therefore, the Senate accordingly resolves to observe 1 minute silence
in honor of the fallen heroes and the civilians who lost their lives in the unwholesome activities of the bandits. 2, urge the President and Commander-in-Chief to declare the bandits as terrorists and urge total war against them, including bombing all their locations to annihilate and eliminate them. B, declare the non-leadership of the bandits wanted and track them wherever they are to arrest, for arrest and prosecution. And C, direct NEMA and other relevant government agencies to, as a matter of urgency, give all the necessary support to the victims of the menace of banditry in Sokoto and other parts of the country. In actual fact, as I'm talking now currently, people are leaving these villages to the neighboring regional republic. So I think if care is not taken, more than 50% of the local government will now move to the Republic of Niger because there is no help coming from the government. Thank you very much.
Senator Kabir.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I am Kabiru Gaya, represent the people of Kano South from Kano State. Mr. President, thank you for giving me the opportunity to support the motion moved by Senator Gobir, being that I am the co-sponsor of this motion. We are really disturbed with the insecurity situation in this country. Remember that, Mr. President, you have tried your best with the chamber, the Senate did their best in inviting the security so many times to this chamber, at the same time asking what are their problems. Most of the problems are funding, and funds were provided to them to make sure they do their job. Unfortunately, the situation is getting worse. There are so many towns and states having this problem day and night. I know the situation in Dampara. The government have tried another measures by trying to cut off the lines, no network communication, and I believe it is working in Dampara. And therefore, when we are treating a problem in one location, we try to treat them in all the locations so that the bandits should not be escaping from one angle to another. We remember, Mr. President, yesterday, we were in the chamber here when a group of people, the Shiite, came in and did an attack in Gorumpa, and 8 people were killed in that place. They also have another uprising in Mararaba from around the Yanyan area. So if we are not careful, Mr. President, without us knowing, they will soon come and invade Abuja. So therefore, Mr. President, there should be serious concern and intelligence network on the activities of these people. So I therefore commend the praise raised by the sponsor of this motion. When we come to that, I support that. If there's any additional prayer, Mr. President will add. Recently also in Kaduna, just yesterday, bandits came in, attacked a whole village and killed more than 10 people. So the issue of security, Mr. President, is a prime matter. Therefore, all measures we need to take and take a decision on this motion and put up prayers so that the government can be able to consider those prayers and act as fast as possible. As a very serious matter, Mr. President, I will appeal to my colleagues to look at this matter seriously and be able to come up with solutions for the government to use. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Uche Kunefe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Uche Lilian Ekunifiyom. I represent Anambra Central. I'm from Anambra State. Mr. President, I would like to commend the mover of this motion. And in commending him, Mr. President, I want to remind you that during your campaign as the President of the 9th Senate, security was one of the major key points of your campaign. And during our legislative agenda, when we were setting up our legislative agenda, security too was one of the key points of that legislative agenda. But what is happening in the country today, Mr. President, is something that is becoming unmitigated. Security has gone so bad in this country that we have to be very, very careful and very stringent in ensuring that we provide solution for the issues at hand. It's not about Sokoto State. Mr. President, across the whole Nigeria, across the whole nation, security has become menace. It has become cancerous. It has become so bad that the situation is becoming terrible, that uncontrollable too. Mr. President, security of lives and property is the primary responsibility of every government. Few motions we took this morning, or few bills we took this morning, are the bills that will address poverty. In addressing poverty, security also is a major part of what the Senate and what I feel the government should immediately treat. Mr. President, apart from the bandits, kidnapping, the issue of kidnapping, the issue of killing, now bandits go to hotels, even in Abuja. Armed robbers go to hotels, terrorize the inmates of the hotels, rob them, kill them, and move. In the southeastern part of the country, you can't even move freely on the roads anymore. They will kill you, murder you, drop you on the road. In southwestern part of the country, the same thing. It's becoming so bad that government has to do something very quickly, otherwise it will go out of hands. And it will get to a level where finding solution will be very problematic. Mr. President, even in Abuja here, yesterday somebody was kidnapped in Gudu. Gudu has boundary with Asokoro. Somebody was kidnapped in that place yesterday. So I feel that it's not just about Sokoto. We have to do something very urgently about security. I think the president has to address the nation. It has come to a level when he has to just address the nation on security. It's getting off hands. We must call a spade a spade. The essence of occupying sensitive position is to ensure that citizens, get the best out of that government. And what are the citizens looking for from the leaders? Security and the welfare, their security and their welfare. I think it's no longer talking on the floor of the Senate. Time has come when the executive has to address the nation on security. The president must address the nation on security. That is my submission, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President and distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I stand to support this motion and also to add that this Senate, as we've started and we've gotten to this appreciable level, should continue till we get to the end. The unfortunate incidents in Sokoto and other places, especially generally Northwest and North Central, is worrisome. This Senate has done everything, including the recently passed and signed into law supplementary budget to address, and let us at this time also commend the Nigerian Army and other security agencies for doing their best. What we are faced with is very different, and I don't think most of us imagined that such thing will happen by the bandits. Having said that, the Nigerian Army responded even before this current Chief of Army Staff established a center in Katsina, particularly Faskari, where they have an operational base. But you know, the Northwest, Sokoto, KB, Zamfara is wide, and their thinking is to concentrate on Zamfara now, Katsina, moving to Sokoto, but as we say, things are getting really out of hand. What we need to do is to actually provide our own ideas generated from the people we represent, since we have a closer contact with them. And secondly, what we are faced with now in that particular area is the embarrassing humanitarian crisis that is coming along with it. In the prayers, Mr. President, we need to look at it and expand it a bit and make it holistically so that it can touch on other areas, particularly the humanitarian crisis. And if there's any other advice that we could give the security agencies. I was with the Chief of Army Staff on this issue. And I want to tell our colleagues that the Chief of Army Staff is from Sokoto, and I don't know, I think he's from that senatorial district. So he is also particularly concerned. But we cannot stop, but continue to give them the support and necessary advice so that this embarrassing situation will be brought to an end. Thank you, Mr.
We go to the prayers. Prayer 1, observe a minute silence in honor of the fallen heroes and civilians who lost their lives in unwholesome activities of the bandits. Those in favor of prayer 1, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, urge the President and the Commander-in-Chief to A, declare the bandits as terrorists and wage total war against them, including bombing all their locations to annihilate and eliminate them. Those in favor of this prayer, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. 2B, declare all the known leadership of the bandits wanted and track them wherever they are for arrest and prosecution. Those in favor, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. And 2C, direct NEMA and other related federal government agencies to, as a matter of urgency, give all necessary support to the victims of the menace of banditry in Sokoto and other parts of the country. Those in favor of this prayer, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Senator Alunwe.
Thank you, Mr. President. The fourth additional prayer I want to ask is for the purpose of emphasis, and that is require the Ministry for Humanitarian Affairs to address the current humanitarian crisis in that area.
I need a seconder. Yes, Senator Gobir.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. I rise to second the motion moved by distinguished Senator Nome. Thank you.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the additional prayer, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. That will be prayer 3. Distinguished colleagues, I think the issue of insecurity is one issue that will never get tired of debating here. And we must commend our armed forces and other security agencies. These people give their lives in trying to secure this country. And that is the ultimate sacrifice anybody could pay. I believe that they are doing their best, but we also need to do our best as a government by giving them the kind of resources that they need. So I believe that we have done that in the supplementary budget, like pointed out, but we also need to improve the annual appropriation for them. If we could pass over 800 billion in the supplementary budget, I don't see why we cannot improve the resources up to 1 trillion and then hold our security agencies accountable. And I believe that we need to monitor the procurement processes when we give such kind of resources to our armed forces. The security-related committees, particularly the armed forces-related committees, defense, army, navy, and air force committees need to watch very closely the procurement processes by these services. We must ensure that funds appropriated are not put in the wrong areas. Point of order, leader.
Mr. President, I rise to move that we suspend our Order 13 in order to conclude our deliberations to enable us to take concurrences.
Minority leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate sees beyond the 2 p.m. in order for us to take the bills for concurrence, say aye. Those against, say nay, the ayes have it. So I believe that we can do better by providing more resources to our armed forces to ensure that this fight is taken to its logical conclusion. Leader of the Senate. Oh, we have 1 minute silence. 1 minute silence. May the souls of our fallen heroes and compatriots rest in perfect peace. Amen. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, the 11th to 15th order of the day are House bills for concurrence as listed on the order paper. The distinguished senators will recall that these bills were read the first time in this distinguished chamber on Tuesday, 21st September 2021, Tuesday, 23rd March 2021, Tuesday, 13th July 2021, Wednesday, 29th September 2021, respectively. Mr. President, for the simple nature of the bills and the inter-chamber reciprocity, which is important, I will use a single lead debate on all these bills. Your permission to do so is requested.
You may proceed, Leader.
Which one?
Leader, you may proceed, please. Leader. You can use your mic.
I am highly privileged to lead this debate on the concurrence bills from our sister chamber, the Federal House of Representatives. These bills are as follows. The first one is the Federal Road Authority Bill 2021, House Bill 362. The second one is National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Amendment Bill 2021, House Bill 351. The third one is FCT Area Codes Bill 2021, which is House Bill 67. The fourth one is Federal College of Education Bill, New Jigawa State Establishment Bill, which is House Bill 383. And the fifth one is Federal University of Education, Aguleri, Anambra State Establishment Bill 2021, House Bill 1138. The Federal Road Authority Bill 2021 was read the first time on Tuesday, 21st September 2021. This bill seeks to repeal the Federal Road Maintenance Agency Establishment Act 2002 as amended, the Federal Highways Act 1971, and the Control of Advertisement Federal Highways Act 1986, and establishment of Federal Road Authority for the safe and efficient management of federal road network to meet the socio-economic demands of the country, promote the sustainable development, management, operation, and regulation of the road sector, and facilitate the development of competitive markets and the promotion of enabling environment for private sector participation and investment in financing, maintenance, and improvement of the roads in this great country. The National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Establishment Amendment Bill 2021 was read the first time on Wednesday, 15 September 2021. This bill amends the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Establishment Act 2006 to provide, among other things, statutory power for the agency to charge adequate fines, introduce criminal offences and penalties in order to ensure strict compliance with all existing environmental legislation in the petroleum sector. The FCT Area Code Bill 2021 was read the first time on Tuesday, 23rd March 2021. This bill seeks to confer criminal jurisdiction on area courts in the Federal Capital Territory in addition to its existing jurisdiction over civil matters in which parties are subject to the jurisdiction of the court to the extent set out in the establishing warrant. It further makes provisions for the application of the Penal Code Act, Administration of Criminal Justice Act 2015, and any other written law which the court may be authorized to enforce in accordance with the provisions of this bill. The Federal College of Education Bill Niwa Jigawa State Establishment Bill 2021 was read in this chamber for the first time on Tuesday, 13 July 2021. This bill seeks the establishment of Federal College of Education Bill Niwa Jigawa State as an institution to cover full-time courses leading to the award of National Certificate of Education, diplomas, etc. The Federal University of Education, Aguleri, Anambra State, Establishment Bill 2021 was read the first time on Wednesday, 29 September 2021. This bill seeks to upgrade the Federal College of Education, Aguleri, to Federal University of Education, Aguleri. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, these bills were passed by both chambers in the National Assembly. They were straightforward and have again gone through the necessary legislative process in the House of Representatives. I therefore urge members to support both the second reading of these bills as we refer them to the Committee of the Whole for clause-by-clause consideration. I thank you, Mr. President. I thank you, my colleagues, and God bless us all. Thank you very much.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I only have one issue that I wanted to clarify from the leader, and that has to do with the FCT Area Cost Bill. I want to know from the leader, those people who are in charge of area courts, those appointed there, whether they have the capacity to deal with criminal procedures, because I'm not so sure. Where I come from, the area courts are those who deal with civil matters exclusively, and then, so I'm having an issue there, and I want you to clarify it.
Yes, Leader.
Thank you. I really welcome that remark and inquisition from the minority leader. And from my own knowledge of the caliber of people who are manning the area court, at least in Abuja Capital Territory, almost all of them are, I think all of them are trained lawyers who had BSc, BL, in law. They are well versed and in their training. In fact, my own daughter, is one in the Customary Court of Appeal, and she even has a master's LLM, in law, and she is in one of the area courts, as a judge. So I am sure that kind of thing. But I know maybe our colleague, the chairman of judiciary, will explain better, than myself of this matter. So with your permission, sir, we may yield for further clarification from our chairman, distinguished Senator Bamidele.
Distinguished Senator Bamidele.
Well, thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I'm Michael Okwemi Bamidele. I represent Ekiti Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, it's a very relevant observation from the minority leader. As to the customary Court of Appeal, Mr. President, I can speak, very authoritatively based on personal knowledge, that the caliber of people who now are appointed as judges there are people who have the capacity. They are lawyers, trained lawyers. What I'm not very sure of now is when it comes to the FCT area court, I'm not sure whether the same the same principle can be applied to them. So I really would like that we become really sure before we do so. If there's a way we can step just this one down for us to be able to quickly interface with the relevant authorities, including the president of the FCT Customary Court of Appeal, Customary Court of Appeal, with respect to seeking clarifications and then looking at the laws establishing the FCT area court, I think we'll be able to better advise on this so that we are sure of what we are doing in that regard.
I think I have subscribed to the idea of stepping it down until we get further clarifications. Because if the chairman can tell us that he needs to get better information, I think we should take that. Yeah, only that one that is not able to clarify.
Well, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I understand the point being raised, but what I just want to point out is that, like the leader said, these were bills that were passed in the 8th Senate. And I recall and it's also a concurrence. Now, what I remember vividly is that in the 8th Assembly, House of Reps actually had a team of legal people who were looking at what they do as far as their bills are concerned. So, and I believe the principle is that if they have done a thorough job, except if it's something fundamental, which I have not seen in this case, I think I want us to really try to see as much as we can that we respect that principles of concurrence.
Yeah, I understand it's concurrence, but even if it is concurrence, we need to be properly informed. If our colleagues have issues, it doesn't mean that we just pass it like that. We are not saying we're not passing it, but we want to understand what will pass. So I will suggest that we go along with the position of the chairman, judiciary, and we give him, by Tuesday he reports back, and we should be able to take it on Tuesday or so. Sorry? Deputy Minority Whip.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just, at this point, want to raise an issue of experience. Between the period 1996 to 1999, I was the head of accounts in the High Court of Justice, Abuja. And I was also a member of the top management committee of that establishment. There is a scheme of service, and that scheme of service provides that you cannot become an area court judge until you attain certain qualifications, which qualifications now made them to have capacity to perform this kind of responsibility that this bill intends to add to what they are doing at the moment. So there is really a scheme of service which provides for this area court judges to have the relevant qualification that will enable them to perform this responsibility, Your Excellency.
So does that take away the need to confirm? I believe that we should be patient. We are making a law. It doesn't matter whether it's concurrence or not. We should be able to defend whatever we pass, and I believe that by Tuesday, that's not supposed to be a long time. We will pass this, but we need to be properly informed. So, Leader, I would suggest that we stand the consideration of only this one down, and then we'll consider the remaining four reports. Sorry?
From our legal guru as to when he expects to for us to get the report so that we can come back at an appropriate time to court. Of the FCT has increased. The normal court, the magistrate courts have become so clogged with did a lot of minor criminal offenses. You know, therefore, empowering the area courts to handle some of them will be able to reduce the volume of litigations that have more or less inundated the area court. So as early, we should treat this matter, I think as early.
Leader, I said Tuesday, by Tuesday we release this thing for Tuesday. Then on Tuesday he gives us the report. We are not standing this thing down until next month or what. Anyway, it's going to spill to next month. But as early as Tuesday next week, when we see it. So, Chairman, by Tuesday we should have this. And Chairman, business rules, you should reschedule it for consideration on Tuesday. So when we come to it, then the explanation would come from the Chairman Judiciary. But I think we should wait. So, Leader, we stand the consideration of this thing down, please. Leader, can we stand down the consideration of this particular bill?
Okay, I like to move a motion for this distinguished Senate to stand down the consideration of the area court's involvement in criminal matters, you know, until after we receive the report from our chairman on the Committee on Judiciary. I so move.
Minority Leader.
I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Well, is there any other comments? Otherwise, we go to the Committee of the Whole to consider the reports clause by clause. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President,
Oh, sorry, Leader. We have to do second reading first. Yeah, we'll do second reading. I didn't do it. You said comments, Senator Ajibola.
Thank you, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Dr. Surajuddin Ajibola Bashiru. I represent Osun Central Senatorial District. My comment is in relation to Federal Road Authority Bill 2021, HB 360. I'm aware on page 2 of the presentation of the leader, that's the penultimate paragraph, that Mr. President, my respected colleagues, these bills were passed by both chambers of the 8th National Assembly. They are straightforward and have again gone through the necessary legislative process in the House of Representatives. But I've looked at the HB 360, some of the issues that led to their not being given assent are regrettably have not been addressed in the fashion that has been passed by the House. I'm not saying that we could not exercise our legislative discretion to still pass the same bill, but I think it's good to note this so that we don't engage in exercise in futility. And particularly, it relates to relationship between the authority and the executive as represented by the Federal Ministry of Works. And these particular provisions relate specifically to sections 14 and 15 of the HB 360. And I think I have a duty to alert the Senate to this a very important observation. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much. Noted. Those in favor that these bills be now read a second time, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency Establishment, etc. Act 2002 as amended, the Federal Highway Act 1971, and the Control of Advertisement Federal Highway Act 1986, and enact the Federal Roads Bill for establishment of Federal Roads Authority, the framework for private sector participation, and for related matters 2021, SB 362, second reading.
Clerk, I don't understand what you are reading. What I have in my chamber brief is, maybe leader has the same. Page 15 is talking about FEMA. No, this one is reading Federal Road Authority Bill. Eh? Oh, okay, it's repealing FEMA completely. Okay. Oh, okay, Chairman is, okay, go ahead.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Establishment Act 2006 and for related matters 2021, second reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act established the Federal College of Education, Birnawa, Jigawa State, to provide full-time courses, teaching, instruction, and training in technology, applied sciences, arts, social sciences, humanities, and management, and for related matters 2021, second reading. HB. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Education, Aguilera, Anambra State, and for other matters connected there with 2021, second reading, HB 1138.
A bill for an act to repeal the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency Establishment, etc. Act 2002 as amended, the Federal Highways Act 1971, and the Control of Advertisement Federal Highways Act 1986, and enact the Federal Roads Bill for establishment of Federal Roads Authority, the framework for private sector participation, and for related matters 2021, second reading taken. A bill for an act to amend the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Establishment Act 2006, and for related matters 2021, second reading taken. A bill for an act to establish Federal College of Education, Birnawa, Jigawa State, to provide full-time courses, teaching, instruction, and training in technology, applied science, arts, social sciences, humanities, and management, and for related matters 2021, second reading taken. A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of the Federal University of Education, Aguilera, Anambra State, and for other matters connected there with 2021, second reading taken. Leader of the Senate, Committee of the Whole.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to a motion for this distinguished Senate to resolve in the Committee of the Whole to consider these bills. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion that this Senate do now resolve into Committee of the Whole to consider these reports.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate resolves into Committee of the Whole to consider the reports, say aye. Those against, say nay. We start with Federal Roads Maintenance Agency Establishment Act 2002. This has 31 clauses. I'll be fast because they are all written in its concurrence. Those in favor of clauses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 6 on page 3, clause 7 functions of the board, clause 8, clause 10, clause 9 emoluments, and clause 10 appointment of the managing director and executive directors. Those in favor of clauses 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 11 on page 5, removal of managing director or executive director. Clause 12, clause 13, clause 14, and clause 15 on page 9, powers of the authority. Those in favor of clauses 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 16 clause 17, clause 18, clause 19 on page 16, and clause 20 on page 16. Those in favor that all these clauses 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 21, preparation of roads plan. Clause 22, clause 23, clause 24, and clause 25, legal proceedings. Those in favor that clauses 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 26, indemnity of officers of authority. Clause 27, regulations. 28, confidentiality. Clause 29 and clause 29. Those in favor that these clauses stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the interpretation stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that schedules 1, 2, and 3 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 26 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title on page 1 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The next report, a bill for an act to amend the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency. And this has 12 clauses. Those in favor that clauses 1 and 2 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clauses 3, 4, 5, and 6 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 7, which is on page 3, clause 8, clause 9, and clause 10 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the interpretation stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the short title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the schedule stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 9 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The next report is for an act to establish Federal College of Education, Borneo, in Jigawa State. And this bill has 23 clauses. Those in favor that clauses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 6, power of the council, clause 7, visitation, clause 8, clause 9, and clause 10 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 11 on page 6, clause 12, clause 13, clause 14, and clause 15 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 16, pensions on page 8, clause 17, selection board for other principal officers, clause 18, clause 19, and clause 20, account and audit. Those in favor that these clauses stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Clause 21, annual reports. Those in favor that clause 21 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the interpretation stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the short title on page 10 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the schedule on page 10 also stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 11 stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. The last, which has more clauses, Federal University of Education, Aguilera. Those in favor that clauses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clauses 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clauses 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15 stand part of the bill, say aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 16, clause 17, clause 18, clause 19, and clause 20 on page 17. Stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clause 21, quorum and procedure of bodies established by the bill. Clause 22, appointment of committee. Clause 23, clause 24. Stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that clauses 25, 26, stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the interpretation on page 20 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the short title on page 21 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the schedules 1, 2, and 3 stand part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the explanatory memorandum on page 39 stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Those in favor that the long title stands part of the bill say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move a motion that the chair reports progress. I so move.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion that the Senate reverse the plenary for the charter report progress say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the Federal Road Authority Bill 2021 and approved as follows: long title as recommended, clauses as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedules as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. The Senate in the Committee of the Whole considered the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Act Amendment Bill 2021 and approved as follows: long title as recommended, clauses 1 to 10 as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedule as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Thank you. The Senate also considered the Federal College of Education, Borneo, Jigawa State Establishment Bill 2021 and approved as follows: long title as recommended, clause 1 to 21 as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedule as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Yes. The Senate also considered the Federal University of Education, Aguilera, Anambra State Establishment Bill 2021 and approved as follows: long title as recommended, clauses as recommended, interpretation as recommended, short title as recommended, schedules as recommended, explanatory memorandum as recommended. Is this a true reflection of what transpired in the Committee of the Whole? Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I rise to move that these bills be read the third time.
Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to second the motion as ably moved by the leader.
Distinguished colleagues, those in favor of the motion as moved by the leader and seconded by the minority leader that these bills be now read the third time say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Clerk of the Senate.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to repeal the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency Establishment, etc. Act 2002 as amended, the Federal Highway Act 1971, and the Control of Advertisement Federal Highway Act 1986, and enacts the Federal Roads Bill for establishment of Federal Roads Authority, the framework for private sector participation, and for related matters 2021, SB 362, third reading. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to amend the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Establishment Act 2006 and for related matters 2021, third reading, HB 351. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Education, Borneo, Jigawa State, provide full-time courses, teaching, instruction, and training in technology, applied science, arts, social sciences, humanities, and management, and for related matters 2021, third reading, HB 383. Mr. President, distinguished senators, a bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Education, Aguleri, Anambra State, and for related other matters connected therewith, 2021, third reading, HB 1138.
A bill for an act to repeal the Federal Roads Maintenance Agency Establishment, etc. Act 2002 as amended, the Federal Highways Act 1971, and the Control of Advertisement Federal Highways Act 1986, and enact the Federal Roads Bill for establishment of Federal Roads Authority, the framework for private sector participation, and for related matters 2021, third reading taken, and the bill is passed. A bill for an act to amend the National Oil Spill Detection and Response Agency Establishment Act 2006, and for related matters 2021, third reading taken, and the bill is also passed. A bill for an act to establish the Federal College of Education, Burniwa, Jigawa State, to provide full-time courses, teaching, instructions, and training in technology, applied science, arts, social sciences, humanities, and management, and for related matters 2021, third reading taken, and the bill is also passed. A bill for an act to provide for the establishment of Federal University of Education, Aguleri, Anambra State, and for other matters connected therewith, 2021, third reading taken, and the bill is also passed. Congratulations. Leader of the Senate.
Mr. President, my highly respected and distinguished colleagues, I like to, having come to this far and concluded today's proceedings on the order paper, I hereby move that the Senate do adjourn until Tuesday.
You can sit down. I will adjourn, but before I adjourn, no, it's okay. I will adjourn, but before I adjourn, let me wish all of us, and indeed all the